This video is sponsored by Simply Safe. There's no safe like Simply Safe. It's Thursday, September 25th, 2025. It's the 268th day of the year, and my goodness, the tropics have really gotten active out here in the Atlantic. We're going to skip Gabrielle for right now, even though that one's going towards the Azores, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. But we're going to get right into our newest tropical system down here, Tropical Storm Humberto. Currently, just 46 mile per hour winds, 1,007 millibar central pressure, but look at this. If we zoom in here on the WEATHERWISE app, you can really start to see that circulation starting to be evident. It's not going to be very long before this clears out an eye and this becomes a Category 1 hurricane. And the National Hurricane Center is expecting that this is going to be a major hurricane probably as early as September 29th at 2 a.m. So just a couple of days from now, this is going to be a major hurricane going up between the United States and Bermuda. Now, before we talk about what happens after that, we've also got to talk about this other new storm down here, Invest 94L. This has a 90% chance of becoming Tropical Storm Imelda over the next 7 days, and it's probably going to happen over the next 3 days or so, somewhere up here around the Bahamas, okay? And what's really interesting about this whole situation is how close together these storms are, okay? And they're going to be getting closer to each other over time. So what could happen here is as they meander closer to each other, they're going to start interacting with each other in a unique way, and they're probably going to start to try to dance, okay? There's something called the Fujiwara effect, where when two rotating cyclones get really close to each other, they start to rotate around a common central point that's not either of the central low pressure systems, okay? So they kind of dance around each other. Now, it's hard to tell how extreme that effect's going to be. These aren't going to get so close to each other that they're literally going to merge, but it's making the forecast very difficult. Nobody knows what's going to happen with these two storms as we go forward. We can look at some models that are trying to tell us what's going to happen here. This is for Tropical Storm Humberto. You can see that the majority of the models here take this off out to sea, but there's a couple that point it towards the Outer Banks of North Carolina, so that's something that we have to pay attention to. But I think that if either of these storms I'm going to be confident about, I'm definitely more confident in this track. I think that it's almost certainly going to stay out to sea. It'll probably go west of Bermuda, east of North Carolina, and kind of slide through that channel up there towards the North Atlantic Ocean. The much more tricky one is going to be Imelda, or Invest 94L. This storm is going to be unbelievable to track. Satellite imagery is going to be crazy. The models are going to be very wrong. And here's a look at some of these wrong models right now. We've got pretty much half and half. Half of them show the storm getting close to Florida and South Carolina and then recurving following Humberto. And then we've got a couple that kind of show it pushing straight up into the southeastern portions of the United States. This is going to be the story that we tell over the next few days until we have a better idea of what's going on. Either one of these scenarios is possible, okay? So we definitely need to be paying attention to this on the southeast coast, but we don't know for sure if either of these storms will have a direct impact. Here's an interesting solution from the GFS model. You can see by September 27th, we're going to have two storms very close to each other out here around the Bahamas. We've got Humberto here, we've got Imelda here, and what's going to happen next? Well, according to the GFS, they are going to interact with each other. This particular model shows Humberto trying to pull Imelda back in, but there's enough forward motion here to where it's not really working. What's happening though is that the force from Humberto is keeping Imelda from becoming as strong as it could become, okay? So Imelda is going to be in a much more favorable environment as far as sea surface temperatures go. So if this didn't have Humberto kind of tugging on it a little bit, it would get much stronger, much quicker. But notice what happens here. It kind of just gets ejected forward, and it does make somewhat of a landfall up here near South Carolina, according to the GFS, on September 30th. But notice what happens after that. Humberto continues to pull on it and actually kind of holds it around the coast for a couple of days and then ejects out. So this right here would actually be a pretty bad scenario for South Carolina, because it would mean several days of heavy rain and flash flooding. So that's one of the many scenarios that are possible. I don't want to say that that's exactly what's going to happen, but if this were to happen, even though this is only showing like a tropical storm landfall, not like a major hurricane or anything, this would be a devastating storm for the southeast United States. Just in terms of the amount of rainfall that we got from it. And that's why my coastal awareness model is starting to ping places like Cape Hatteras, Charleston, South Carolina. How about you down here in Brunswick and Savannah, Georgia? Even all the way down here towards Fort Lauderdale and Miami. We've got to be aware of the forecast, okay? It doesn't mean that we've got to start preparing yet, but just be aware. Even Bermuda, this is such an unpredictable storm that even folks in Bermuda should be watching the trends with Invest 94L and Imelda as we go forward, even though it's more likely that Humberto will be a bigger problem for you. The only places where I'm pretty confident that we should be taking action right now for Imelda are down here in the Bahamas. I would say that we're almost certainly going to have at least tropical storm impacts in places like Eleuthera and especially Crooked Island and places like Exuma. So make sure you are ready for that if you're in the Bahamas. So once again, don't be scared, be prepared, keep an eye on these forecasts, and as soon as we get a more concrete forecast path, you'll hear it here first. We're probably going to be having daily videos as we continue to track this incredible dance in the Atlantic over the next couple of days. And we're about to dive much deeper into that, but first, let's shout out today's awesome sponsor, Simply Safe, security that stops crime before it starts. We all know how important it is to have a safety plan in place before a storm, but storms aren't the only threat you should be ready for. Your home should be secured long before a potential break-in ever occurs. And that's why I'm excited to partner with today's sponsor, Simply Safe. Simply Safe is an advanced home security system that helps stop crime before it happens. With indoor and outdoor cameras, sensors, and professional monitoring, Simply Safe keeps watch over your home 24/7. Old school alarms only go off after someone's already inside your home, and that's too late. But Simply Safe's Active Guard outdoor protection uses AI-powered cameras to spot suspicious activity before a break-in happens. Their monitoring agents can even talk to intruders, trigger alarms and lights, or request urgent police dispatch, all in real time. And with the Simply Safe app, I can arm or disarm the system, check camera feeds, and manage everything from anywhere. There are no long-term contracts. Monitoring plans start at about $1 a day, and you can set it up yourself or you can have the pros come do it for you. Save 50% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for a professional monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/haul y'all to customize yours today. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Once again, make sure to click that link right at the top of the description. Huge shout out to Simply Safe for sponsoring today's video. I think a lot of you guys are going to like them, and let's get back into the weather part of this video. All right, now let's come back on to land and talk about the more short-term forecast. Today, we have a marginal risk of severe weather from just about up to Boston, down past New York City, through Washington, D.C., all the way down into the foothills of the Appalachians, the Piedmont area, and the Carolinas. We're going to have some big-time thunder boomers today, and these will mostly be heavy rain and wind makers, but there is actually a little bit of spin in the atmosphere the farther north you go in this marginal risk. And for that reason, we've got millions of people under a 2% probability of seeing a tornado or two today. So this includes Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New Brunswick, New York. It includes Hartford, Connecticut, Springfield, Massachusetts. Doesn't quite make it up to Boston, but up in here, we are going to be watching out for a couple tornado warnings today. It's not going to be a big outbreak or anything. Just make sure you have a way of getting warnings. A good way to do that is from the YALLBOT 24/7 channel. Here's what that radar could look like today as we get into the afternoon hours, especially around 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be watching cells that are firing up down here south of Albany, over here on the Maryland-Pennsylvania border, and everywhere in between. This is where we're going to have some discrete supercells, or at least mini supercells forming that are going to be capable of producing some small hail, some gusty winds, and maybe a brief tornado. Peak tornado time is going to be probably around 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Once we hit 8 p.m., things are going to start to die off, but I still see a couple of cells here from Massachusetts back towards the northern New Jersey area that could be causing some problems. But definitely by 10 p.m., things are going to calm down a lot, and the severe weather threat will mostly be over. Let me replay that loop for you down here for the southeast. Once again, these are all going to be just gully washers, heavy rain makers, wind makers, some small hail, no tornado threat really for any of these southern storms. And really that's going to be our main focus. That's the main stuff to talk about, the tropics and then our short-term severe threat. But just for fun, let's look even farther into the future. You can see Imelda on the GFS making landfall there in South Carolina, potentially around September 30th, and all of the rain that's going to come along with it. Let's skip even farther into the future, and even by October 2nd, we still got that onshore flow and heavy rain and continuing, maybe even for portions of North Carolina up into Virginia, up into the Appalachian Mountains. Not something that we want to see. It doesn't really calm down, I guess, until October 4th. And then something interesting happens on October 3rd and 4th. We get a big trough coming in, and you can see it lighting up some storms here in the northern plains on Friday, October 3rd. That might be a severe weather situation that we've got to track, and that might lead to one of those big sweeping cold fronts, a classic fall severe weather setup from the upper Midwest all the way down into the deep south as we go into October 5th and 6th. That could lead to a squall line that goes through the Ohio Valley. And then, once we get past that, it's kind of a big guess. These models are not very accurate beyond a certain point, but it does look like things are going to be quite active at least through October 6th. So buckle in, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, and of course, don't be scared, be prepared. Just stay tuned and you'll be way ahead of the storm. And that's pretty much all the weather talk I have for you today. Make sure you slap a like on this video, subscribe, turn notifications on, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.